Vandy is at Alabama. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Time kickoff on ABC. This was the biggest shocker of a result in all of 2024. Point spread was, I think, 22.5. Yes, there were bigger point spread upsets last year. I don't know how you feel about it and felt about it. This was the most shocking outcome that I remember last year. Just remember, it's kind of similar to this year. Alabama had just beaten Georgia at home. They're going on the road to take on Vandy, and they lose outright. Just a stunner. And I remember that I was at a Texas A&M Missouri game, which was a blowout, and I'm flying home as that game's taking place, and I feel like an idiot because I flew all the way to Texas to watch Missouri get splattered when I could have just walked to the Vanderbilt game. Literally, I could have walked from my apartment and seen the outcome of the year, the stunner of the year. And then they took the goalposts down Broadway. This really happened. We could see it. If I were in our studio at the time, I could have looked down on the street and watched the goalpost get taken to the Cumberland River. But nope, I had to go to College Station. We had a fun time that weekend. But yeah, game day's in town for this. Everyone's attention is on it. Vanderbilt, for the first time in my lifetime, has the full attention of a program like the University of Alabama. Like, everyone's paying attention to the game. I don't know if you're new to college football, if that really clicks with you, but if you've been around for a while, if you're like 25 or older and you've got a sense of history about the game, for Vanderbilt to have Alabama and the country's full attention in a matchup like this is amazing. For that matter, for Vandy to be in Tuscaloosa and only be a 10.5-point dog is also a really, really big deal. But they don't want to cover. They want to win. So let's talk about it. The question is obviously, can Vandy pull it off again? Let me give you a few reasons to suggest yes, they can. Last year, they ran the ball on Bama. They have a top 20 rush offense this year. Bama currently sits 90th in run defense. Bama's faced some decent teams running the ball. Yeah, okay. Vandy can run it. They got that quarterback that can run it. They got some horses. They can run the ball. Number two reason, last year's game featured a 42-minute to 18-minute time of possession advantage. Lean Vanderbilt. Vandy is once again a top 20 team in the country in time of possession. Thirdly, Vandy is fourth in third down conversions in the country this year. You remember this game last year? They were 12 of 18 on third down and 1 of 1 on fourth down. Bama couldn't get the ball. They never had the ball. And when they did, they turned it over. They lost the turnover battle as well. So there are certainly carryover elements of Vanderbilt. Same stuff you saw last year, you've seen this year. Here's why it could be different. Alabama is one of 3 teams in FBS with no turnovers. They have not given the ball away. And that's not some fluke. It's never a fluke when you get 5 or 6 weeks in and you haven't turned the ball over. But if you listen to them, even in fall camp, what was the one thing that Ryan Grubb and that coaching staff kept saying about Ty Simpson? He doesn't turn the ball over. He's protected the football. They kept talking about how all throughout fall camp, we've turned it over like 2 or 3 times or whatever. Well, that's tracked. That's carried over. So we've got that. But, even though they aren't running the ball great, they're still 13th in the country on third down conversion percentage. That last game really helped that stat uptick. They're 30th in the country in time of possession, which is weird because you would think to control those metrics, to thrive in those categories, if you're Alabama, you got to be able to run the ball. But their running numbers, rushing yards per game, they're 108th in the country. I don't know what else to tell you. If you watched the Georgia game, I think you saw what we talked about. Kublik came on the show last Thursday, talked a lot about extensions of the run game, how they accomplish what the equivalent of rush yardage would be. They just don't do it the same way a Nick Saban team would have done it, the same way a Kirby Smart team tries to do it. Now, do you have to be a little bit more efficient? Is it a little bit higher skill level and more people required, more time invested required to accomplish that? Yeah. But when it works, it works. And it's worked for them so far. They're a much more consistent offense. I think Ty Simpson's making the right decisions. And because of that, that doesn't immunize you from getting beat. What it does mean is the other guy's got to beat you. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I don't mean they handed a game to Vanderbilt last year. But to say that they came up here fully prepared, I think would be a lie. To say they focused on Vanderbilt last year, I think would be a lie. So how does Vandy beat an Alabama team whose full attention they have. Hey, really quick timeout. We'll get right back to the video. Do me one favor. Make sure you're subscribed. It helps us keep the show free. It helps us keep the lights on. It helps us keep doing college football year-round, and we appreciate it. All right, back to the video. Well, I think it really comes down to Vandy's secondary. How gettable are they through the air? Because they hadn't faced a top passing attack at all. The statistics say they hadn't faced a top 50 passing attack, and I think that really tracks. Like the closest, theoretically they may have come is facing South Carolina, again, theoretically, but Sellers was out most of that game, so they didn't really get anyone. And now by far they'll face the best quarterback they faced all year. They won't face a better stable of receivers than this all year. So what Alabama's got to try and do here is just flip the game script. All the stuff they did to you last year, you flip it by converting on third down, by doing what you did against Georgia last week. I mean, it was Bama that dominated time of possession. It was Bama that dominated third down. Well, if you come close, just remotely close, to knocking down the dominoes you did against Georgia last week, you will have flipped the Vanderbilt game script from last year. And I don't think anyone looks at it and says Alabama's got to be utterly dominant. They don't have to go scorched earth here. You just can't implode in those categories. The other theory that I'm working off of is the FSU loss kind of changed Alabama. I was just talking, Chris Lowe, legend of the business. Chris Lowe is in the building tonight, and he's probably 20 feet away from me right now. We were just talking before the show. Hey, it's pretty obvious the Florida State loss triggered something in Alabama as a program. But if you get granular, I'd love to know, did Tommy Castellanos' performance in that Florida State game in week 1 trigger something in Kane Womack and that defense? We can't know until Saturday. We can't know, but mobility at the quarterback position has given them fits. It gave them fits in week 1. Sure enough, here comes Diego Pavia rolling into town. Last year, he was 16 of 20 through the air for 252 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also ran the ball 20 times for 56 yards. But a lot of his mobility just ate them up. A lot of his mobility then opened up lanes and gap integrity. I cannot tell you how many times I heard those words in the pejorative context the week after Alabama played Vanderbilt. So how much did they learn? How much did Tommy Castellanos doing what he did to them in week 1 wake them up just from a defensive standpoint? What kind of adjustments are made? What kind of adjustments can they make? They're missing James Smith the first half of this game. Quay Russaw got hurt last week, so they're not 100% defensively. No one is. That includes them, though. So can Vandy pull it off again? Let's take a look at what the model thinks. FanDuel number has come down. This was at one time, I think, Bama minus 13.5. We got it at 12.5 the other night when we were doing the Sunday show. That's what it was at. It's at Bama minus 10.5 now. We still think the number should be lower. Our model has Bama minus 9. We took Vandy at 12.5 as one of our best bets of the weekend. I just flat out think they're a good enough team to hang with Alabama. They got a puncher's chance of beating Alabama. They will be within reach. And I also go back to this. Okay, I know if you're a Bama fan, you think to yourself, we just beat Georgia, and you did, and that's wonderful. Think about the Kalen DeBoer profile, the team profile. What's his best team been? His best team's been Washington, and that Washington year where they went all the way to the title game. I remember that year, number one, because I kept picking against them and being proven wrong. It's like a pie in the face every weekend. But the other thing I remember is how many one-possession games they played. Even in his best year, the wins are close wins. They didn't blow many people out. And so I think about this game. I think Alabama will win the game. That's my pick. I think Alabama will win the game. But pulling away from Vanderbilt is not going to be easy. And I'll tell you this, I was looking at our power ratings a little while ago. Just in terms of raw power rating, strip away the Vanderbilt logo. They compare very favorably to Michigan right now. If Michigan were coming to Tuscaloosa Saturday, you would still think you're going to win. But a lot more of the country would be taking them seriously. They'd be taking the matchup seriously. That's how seriously you should be taking this. That's the caliber of team that Vanderbilt is right now. Michigan, USC was another one that was right there. Again, these are not teams you think are as good as Alabama. I don't think they're as good as Bama. But you would take the threat seriously. Take this threat very seriously. We are taking Vandy to cover. That's actually one of our best bets of the week. But I am taking Alabama to win. So I think it's right there in that 6, 8, 9 kind of point range.